Hello, hello, hello. Oh, there's all sorts of new Zoom settings all of a sudden. I just got a pop-up saying, you're broadcasting live. Is that okay? So I have no idea how that all translates. Okay, so I'm going to start the chat in case there's that weird thing again where the chat doesn't start without me. Hi, everyone. Okay, so as always, let me know when when you're here because I like to see people walking in the room so that I know that I'm actually live. Um, because I know it's different now that it's once a month. I'm not sure if anyone's here or if you all remember. So, oh, Tony, I can always count on Tony being the first one in the room. Tony, I almost started by saying, okay, who wants to bet that Tony's going to be the first one to walk in? But there you go. Anyway, hello. So who knows how many folks will join us because I know it's kind of like a transition going to once a month. And I also forgot to remind people, but anyway, hi, Chris. Chris is here. So hello, and Marsha. Okay, so you guys are starting to come in. I am so happy that today happens to be the last perfect weather day for filming because these lights are really hot. So tomorrow we're going to have a giant thunderstorm and then it's going to be in the 90s, which, wait, I have to see what that is in, as my friend says, real temperature, which is, the temperature for the rest of the world. I should know this by now. So 90 degrees, what is that? Oh, never mind. Anyway, what it is in centigrade is hot. I think it's like, what is that? Someone does anyone know what 90 degrees is? It's like 20 something. It's hot. Anyway, hello from Denmark, hello from Wisconsin, hello from Pennsylvania. So I have some news, and then I had a question, an idea that I want to float by the group. And then I just wanted to talk about something about learning because there's been a lot of interesting conversations. Started on Twitter, then I kind of moved it over to Instagram. And I just wanted to see where you all are at. So that's me killing time as people come in. And I have to do that thing that I always forget to do, like, don't forget, hit the subscribe button and get notifications, click the thumbs up, whatever. Chris, it's going to be 106 on Monday. So this weekend, Sue, it's 32. Thank you. Okay, I knew it was hot in as my Canadian friend calls it, real temperature. Yeah, I knew it was hot. So this weekend, when it's going to be hot, we are having house guests. And this is the first time we have been with our vaccinated friends, unmasked inside, obviously I haven't, a couple of the friends that are coming, I've only seen once in the last year and a half for a socially distanced outdoor hike. So I'm incredibly excited. It's going to feel the most like, the before times of anything, having 6 people in the house, having a house full of guests. But what that means is this room that I am in, that has been acting as my filming studio, has to convert back to what it really is, which is one of my guest bedrooms. So I'm going to be shoving everything into the corner, and I have way over on that side of the room 2 twin beds that we like latch together with this little king converter thing to be a king, but they're stacked one on top of another. So I'm going to hope to unstack them and still have like all my filming equipment shoved to the side, because I still have a lot to do. So that's really exciting, but we don't have air conditioning in these rooms. We have an overhead fan and we have a box fan for the windows. So I'm going to hope everyone is comfortable enough. We only have 2 window units. We have a window unit in the downstairs living room, and then we have one in the master bedroom, which I'll like crank with the door open and a fan blowing in here. But yeah, it's going to be crazy. So, so that's one thing. The other thing, hello from Paris, hello from Canada, hello from London. How many of you can post a little thumbs up in the comments. How many of you follow me on Instagram? And how many of you saw the announcement that I made a few days ago? As always, there's a 30-second delay. So it's going to take a while to get to you. But yeah, I wondered how many of you already heard the news, because I've been sort of coy saying how I went to once a month for the YouTube lives. I was going to every other month for Vogue. I was going to every other month with my column with Modern Daily Knitting, because I kept saying, like, I have this big thing. Tony's saying yep, Kathleen's saying yes, but that I couldn't talk about. So I am super, oh, Julie's here. Hi, Julie. I'm super superstitious. So even though I had signed an electronic contract, I'm old, Joe. I'm old, you guys. So I need to hold a piece of paper in my hand. So, Marsha, you follow me, but you missed my announcement. Oh, you got to go on Instagram. You got to make sure to check my feed every day. And the more you interact with me, the more I show up in your feed. That's kind of the Instagram algorithm. So the announcement was, much to my, not dismay, but I signed a book contract. Now, people have been asking me for years, when are you going to write a book? Oh, it'd be so great if you put all your tips in one book, which, by the way, that's not going to happen because like, since I filmed Patty's Knitting Bag of Tricks, you create inventions all the time. So part of the contract is their commitment to doing revisions. Hopefully it sells well enough that then I'll be able to come out with another edition with updates. But anyway, I've never pursued writing a book because I'm more of a just talk to you kind of person. That's why I'm really comfortable filming videos. And I'm gonna, because it's just us. I'll just tell you, writing the monthly column for Modern Daily Knitting, it takes me all day to get a column out. It's like pulling teeth to write a 1,200 word column. So, writing a 20,000 word book with 300 to 400 illustrations is a little daunting. So I've never written a book proposal. I've never pursued a book. This lovely publisher contacted me and I said, no. Then they contacted me again and they made me an offer and I said no to that, but it would have to be this. And they said, okay, we'll do that. And then I said, well, no, it would have to be this timeline. They're like, that's fine. So anyway, long story short, as my mother would say, too late. Man, were they persistent, and man, did they just agree to everything. So now I'm writing a book. So I hope you all show up for it and buy this book. Otherwise, I'll be super sad. It's going to be me. It's going to be, oh no, Marsha, I'll always do the MDK column. I love the MDK column. I just went to every other month because I'm writing a book. But I love them so much. And FYI, Kay and Anne as humans, just the menschiest people, just good people. I miss our trade show. I miss like hanging out with them at the bar. But anyway, so that's one big piece of news. So the whole thing will be, I'm just going to crack open my head like a can opener and spill as much out onto the pages as I can. The idea is that I want something that you can hold in your hand that just has a ton of info, where you don't have to worry about like, oh, which, I mean, I hear all the time, like, oh, do you have some kind of index for what trick is in which video? Or do you have an index of all the columns or the blog? You know, because I write things on blogs, I write things in the columns, I've filmed things in video classes, I've got all the sweater classes. But anyway, the idea is that you'll be able to hold it in your hand and have everything in one place. So that's one bit of information. Just the other thing is I'm still working on my brioche series. So this is the first in the series. This is the hat. It's very cool. It's going to be super fun to do. Really enjoyable. And that's going to take a while because I'm filming a whole series of classes. So there's going to be the hat, there's going to be a scarf, and then there's going to be the sweater. And I have a whole new idea. No patterns in the book, just pure technique. No patterns in the book, pure technique. So I wanted to talk a little bit about classes. And I want to get your thoughts. So a couple things. Thing one is I had an idea that I wanted to float by y'all. So now that you know kind of what's on my plate. So first of all, I have the book. Second of all, I have this whole fall series that I'm trying to do. The most ambitious sweater thing I've ever done, ever. I thought Volition was the most ambitious thing I'd ever done. Then I went crazy and I did Affinity. But now the natural evolution of that idea is really inviting you to embrace absolute customization. So yeah, there's still going to be a pattern that's a handful of examples, but the class is going to be about how you're going to measure yourself, how you're going to it's going to be a template. There's going to be spreadsheets with all the formulas built in. So the idea of like plug and play, like, well, I got this gauge on the stitch pattern. So yeah, I'm going to do that cast on for the hem. Okay, now my measurement from here to here is this, and my row gauge is this. Type the numbers in for the inches you want at your waist. Okay, that's how many decreases I have. So I'm really going to like unlock all this math, and I'm going to give you this tool that you'll be able to use, by the way, with other sweaters. So it's not going to be a normal sweater class. It's really going to be like a master class in fit. So it's going to be much more involved. It will be a little spendier because it's going to be a whole thing. But anyway, so I have got that going. I have Affinity, my retreat. Is anyone coming to Affinity? That was the retreat that got postponed by a year. So that was the retreat that was in September of last year and got postponed. So that is coming in September. So I have all of that going at once. So now that I have the education platform, when I used to teach live, the prices were less expensive. The classes were less expensive because all it was a Zoom link. And then you were given, the link to download the class, have at it, right? You have to have enough room on your computer. It's one big lump, But I did a series of live classes last month. I did a couple sessions of Build a Better Fabric and a session of Secrets of Spectacular Sweater Success. And it's much more involved now to put it on the streaming platform because there's a lot more work setting it up. There's a lot more work in editing your actual individual live class into downloadable chunks and, uploading all that stuff and, setting that all up so that you could stream the class. Anyway, that's part of what is my delay in being able to do more live classes is with my schedule. It's really time consuming. But I had a thought. Sorry, I just read a comment saying, what's my last name? I had a thought and I wanted to float it by you. So I'm really busy right now, but it's summer and so are all of you guys. We're getting vaccinated, we're traveling, we're seeing friends, we're getting out there. So I had this idea of what if I offered like a series of technique tidbits. And what these would be 1 hour live classes focused on one technique, like a technique bite. And it would be, you know, like for instance, cabling without a cable needle, boom, 1 hour bite, or knitting and purling backwards, 1 hour bite, you know, or magic loop, 1 hour bite. And they'd be much less expensive. I was thinking $25 for a 1 hour technique sampler. And it wouldn't be streaming because it wouldn't be the whole, because that's part of the more expensive price is the time it takes me to edit all the videos, get them up on the streaming platform, etc. So this would just be a 1 hour live class, $25 fee. And then I would give you the Zoom link to be able to download the recording. So it wouldn't be as fancy. By the way, did anyone here take the Secrets of Spectacular Sweater Success or Build a Better Fabric that I taught on the live platform last month? Because you know, it was much fancier. Like you had all your, you had your handout and your homework uploaded right there. Everything was on the platform. It was on, all that stuff. So how does that sound to people? Does that sound like a good idea? Like something people would be into, particularly in the summer months when you're super busy? And then also, I would love either for you to type in the comments now or type in the comments later if it pops in your head, or even email me. It'd be very difficult to remember email address, patty@pattylyons.com. Thoughts for things you might want to learn in an hour. So, the idea of like just focusing on one technique, like German short rows, boom, an hour. Anyway, that was my thought. So I'm excited to hear your thoughts. But I also just wanted to talk a little bit about this. I don't know if anyone follows me on Twitter. Twitter's like a totally different animal. Twitter. I'm gonna scroll back and see what kind of comments I missed. Twitter is a funny thing because Twitter's like, I would call it my rant channel. It's kind of where I go to like rant about stuff. I mean, there's for sure knitting content there. There's definitely knitting content there, but also sometimes I just pop in and I do a quick little rant. I'm just scrolling backwards. Well, gosh, Patty, I don't know. I never buy knitting books. Thanks. Hubby says it's on my Christmas list. Oh yeah, Marcia, customizing sleeves for sure. Everything about this new sweater, this fall adventure idea of mine is going to be customizable. There's going to be like little plug and play modules, and also you would type in your gauge to this spreadsheet. And you'd be like, my stitch gauge is this, my row gauge is this, right? So it's going to be a whole thing. Oh yeah, Julie, you're coming to Affinity. I know, I'm so excited. Oh yeah, it's coming to Affinity. Oh, excellent. Okay. So, oh, you guys are putting in ideas. That's good. 25 for magic loop, cabling without a needle. Really too easy to find for free. See, so here's the thing. No offense. I'm sure you're a lovely teacher. But I think the difference is understanding that teaching magic loop in a way that people understand what it is, what are the things that mess you up, that you make a mistake, what are the things that all circular techniques have in common? Why do you get accidental yarn overs? Why do you get the tight stitch at the beginning that you can't tuck in? Why do you sometimes get a gap, right? So no offense, Marcia, you might be a fabulous teacher and you might know how to teach all of that stuff, right? But I trust that students understand the difference between a free YouTube video, which is like this, like this, like this, where then every time they have to do it, you're going to look up that YouTube video again, versus actual teaching. You know what I mean? Versus actually teaching what are the 4 things that every circular technique has in common. And what are the 3 danger signs that you're looking for where you know, uh-oh, something's about to go horribly wrong in your magic loop, right? So I genuinely trust that my students know the difference between a YouTube video and me, but that's my belief, and I'll see if I'm wrong. So one thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about, and I wanted to see if anyone had any thoughts about teaching and learning. So I had written something on Twitter that then I also put on Instagram and Facebook because I thought it was really interesting, the response that I got on Twitter. But I put it on Twitter first, and it was just a funny meme about learning. And I had said in my comment, don't let arbitrary skill levels keep you from a class, because they are just that. They're arbitrary skill levels. Like what does intermediate mean? What does advanced mean? You know, that's not helpful. I could label something advanced and someone could go, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm not advanced. And someone else could take it and think, no, that wasn't advanced enough. And a show organizer commented, well, I respectfully disagree, because there's too many people that that come to class without the appropriate skill level, and it ruins class for everybody else. And she told a story about someone that was teaching a class, and 2 students came in that didn't know the skills, and she let them derail the whole class, and she ended up teaching just them, and everybody else was upset, and she had to refund the whole class. So my point was that there's a twofold responsibility. There's the teacher's responsibility. And when I say levels are arbitrary, I don't think it's very helpful to say this is an intermediate class. I think what's more helpful is to say, must know how to knit, purl, cast on, and bind off without supervision. Should be comfortable with, I'll use my 2 at a time on 2 circs and magic loop class. Should be comfortable with magic loop and be able to do it without supervision. So that's listing specific skills. So what I wondered is, first of all, if when you all take classes and you're looking at descriptions, a lot of the shows will have you sort by level, right? So you might pull down to advanced beginner and just sort through that. And that I have no control over. Or do you click through to read the description of the class and the skill prerequisites listed? Because that's a horse of a different color. And I think that, so I think here's what I think. I think the teacher has 2 responsibilities. One, be specific with the skill prerequisite. If having knit a sweater before is important to the understanding of the class should say, should have knit at least 1 sweater, or must be familiar with the math of gauge. So that's one thing. Thing 2 is I think it's the teacher's responsibility. When she said this teacher let the two people that that didn't know the basics derail the whole class, and then she had to give a refund. But I mean, no offense to whoever taught that class, that then they're not doing their job. So the teacher's job is to keep the class moving. And that's my job when I have 40 people in a room and they're all of different skill levels. Often in an in-person class, I'll say, okay, we're going to work in micro groups. Like, take this class I teach, knitting magic, which covers you come in with the foundation of magic loop, but then we go into Judy's magic cast on, and then Judy's magic cast on in magic loop as a tubular cast on, as a provisional cast on. So sometimes I'll say, okay, let's work in microgroups. Show of hands, who's still working on Judy's magic cast on? Okay, you guys keep going. I'll check in with you guys in a second. Okay, show of hands, who's ready to see Judy's magic cast on as a provisional cast on, and then I get them started. And I'm going to catch up in comments in a second. But the other thing is I feel like there's a student responsibility too. And that's kind of what I want to talk about. So when I have had students that jump into a class without fear, which to me, right, to me, that deserves a reward. So they jump into a class without fear, maybe being not entirely sure if they have the skill prerequisite. When a knitter is very self-aware, what generally happens is that knitter will come up to me before class and say, listen, just so you know, I really wanted to take this class. I've actually never cabled before, say it's cabling without a cable needle, and it says, will not be teaching cabling. I watched a YouTube video, and so I'm just, don't even worry about me. I'm going to sit there and I'm just going to listen and learn. So first of all, that's the way to approach class. If you want to jump in, freaking jump on in, but don't derail the class and don't expect special treatment. Now, here's an inside secret. Every time a student comes up to me and says, listen, don't even worry about me, I'm just going to sit, don't. Guess who gets a little extra special attention? That student. I'm always, as I'm walking around, going to be checking in with that person. Why? Because they're awesome, right? Because I want to reward that kind of amazing attitude. So I'm going to catch up with comments in a second, but I'm going to read backwards. But I just wanted to see how you guys felt about that, because I feel like I just feel like there's too much self-censoring. Oh, I can't do that. I'm not advanced enough to do that. And the wackiest thing of all is when I hear a student say, when I hear a knitter say, well, I've never taken a knitting class because I'm not good enough yet for that. Oh, what now? Like, and that's only in knitting. Can you imagine someone who wanted to learn to cook, but said, well, I can't take a cooking class because I don't know enough. You take a class because you don't know enough yet, right? So I feel like there's a lot of self-censoring. And that's one bucket of knitters who don't want to jump into a class because they're not, quote, good enough yet. And then there's the knitters who say, well, I just wanted to take a class with you, and so I don't have the right skill level, but don't worry about me, I'm just going to listen and learn. That's amazing. And then there's the knitters who try to derail a class, like the skill prerequisite says, must know long tail in slingshot position, review this video before coming in. And all the cast on and bind offs I'm going to teach are based on, all the cast ons are based on long tail and slingshot position. And then they still want it like, but I don't know long tail. Can you show me? You know, well, no. I'll try. I'll see if I can pop over and get to you after I get everyone else going in the room. But then don't be frustrated. Just be accepting of like listening and learning, and you're going to learn a ton. All right, I'm scrolling back a little bit and taking a peek. So while you guys, I just want to know, has anyone ever taken a class they feel was sort of above their level and then just listened and learned and got stuff out of it? That's just what I wanted to know. Because I'm interested. So I'm reading. Yeah, Rita says levels are useless to me. Yeah, I think so too. Because what does it mean? What's expert to one might not be expert to somebody else. Might be, like Rita said, like dead basic. And someone else might say something's intermediate. And then someone takes it and was like, oh, that's an expert class. So I just don't know. Yeah, I mean, Chris says I've taken a lot of classes at Michael's with people who didn't even know the basics. So frustrating. And, you know, understand that a lot of Michael's teachers they're like brand new teachers, right? It's a good place for people that are just getting started learning how to teach. And it's a skill level. It takes a long time to learn how to teach to a lot of different levels. Oh, Karen, excellent. So Karen reads the description first. So that's what I really wanted to know. I wanted to know if these levels that are like in a show like Vogue or Stitches or Knit and Escape, you know, large shows where you can sort by levels. Do you sort by levels, or do you look for a topic that you think is interesting and then click on it and see what it says? Because that's I think what's really helpful. Carol wrote, knitting wasn't hard before the internet. Well, there's a truth in that, because knitting used to be lap taught, as I like to say, meaning it was passed from one generation to another, right? You know, your whatever, your uncle, your grandmother, your neighbor down the road. And now we're trying to match. And I think the other thing about the internet is, you know, when people say like, oh, well, you know, you could find that on YouTube for free. No, you can find a technique being demoed by someone. That's really not the same as being taught. They're really, 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 really different. You can find a lot of demos, but then it's monkey see, monkey do. It's match. It's look and try to match, look and try to match, look and try to match. And that's just not teaching. It's what I call the like this, like this, like this. Interesting. I read the description, but some are really vague. So that's the other thing that kills me, is my descriptions are kind of boring. They're not terribly flowery, but they're generally like an absolute list of what you're going to learn. And sometimes someone will take a class, you know, like knitting ER, which the description will talk about, you know, it's going to cover all your foundations of fixes. We're going to learn how the difference between, you know, when to rip and when to tink. We're going to learn to frog with and without a safety line. We're going to learn how to pick up a drop stitch and knit, purl, and, you know, the most difficult garter, and finally learn how to rebuild your edge stitch. And that's just like literally a list of what's in the class. And someone will take the class who's super advanced and knows all these things, and then gives a bad review saying, well, I expected it to go into fixing lace and cables, and it just wasn't what I expected. I'm like, read the description. So the other thing that's frustrating is, and this is going to sound super braggy, and I don't mean this to sound braggy. There's a lot, this is the true of a lot of teachers. But because the classes sell out so quickly, I feel like there's this frenzy to just book. And so people are just clicking to book without reading the description. And so you kind of suffer from, I don't know, whatever, you slightly suffer from popularity. Oh, good. So Karen, you do not sort by levels. Well, this is really good to know. Look for a topic, then read the prerequisite. Yay. Oh, I'm really glad to hear this. Okay. So you guys are really reading the descriptions. That is awesome. So I wonder though, have you ever, now here's the other thing that I've done on some classes, and I want to do it more. There's a lot of classes where I will give a YouTube link to say, please practice this before you come in. Like, like a class that requires the knowledge of long tail in slingshot position. And I say, here's a link, practice it before you come in. And then sure enough, the whole class will, well, I won't let it derail, but someone will say, well, I've never held my needles like that. I do long tail differently. I do it with holding one needle, and then I make an E loop with my thumb, and then I wrap it, and then I pull it through. And I'm like, I understand that's another way to do long tail, which is not slingshot position, which is why I gave a link and said, please practice. So I also think there's a lot of things that a teacher can do to say, hey, if you practice this before you come in, there's no reason you can't take this class, right? Just click on this link and practice this. So I guess my other question to all of you is, have you ever seen a description and it has a link like to a YouTube that says, please practice this, and you think, nah, I know that. And is there a way, I guess, what can the teacher do that we're not already doing to encourage, if there's something you really need to know in order to get what you need out of the class, to encourage you to do that? That's what I'm wondering. I'm going to go back and read. Okay, definitely look for topic. That's good. Yes, there is no universally agreed upon meaning for levels. I totally agree, Victoria. I could not agree more. Yeah, Chris, that's funny. Chris says lots of demos, but few real teachers on YouTube. And when you find someone teaching, they get comments like, you talk too much. I actually haven't ever gotten a comment like that. And I do talk a lot. But what I try to do is make sure to demo, and then sometimes I'll demo again in slow motion. And I'm talking as I'm demoing. So if someone's like, oh, I don't want to hear your words, I just want to see it, they can, turn the volume down. I mean, I have gotten comments about my nails. I had someone tell me that I should get a manicure, which I don't care to. And they said they found my short unmanicured nails distracting. Honestly, I find those long painted nails insanely distracting in knitting videos. I just do. That's personal preference. But also, I'm not like, look at all the makeup I wear, which is none. I'm not a manicure makeup gal. It's just not who I am. So I think I wrote, I'm sure you can find a lot of beautifully manicured hands with less specific teaching. Please do enjoy. Ooh, you could make it bold, print mandatory, practice this before class. Okay. Good. Thank you. So you think like things like all caps and bold, that really does get your attention? One of the things that I stole from the late great Kat Bordy that I just thought was brilliant, now I always put it there, is I remember when she was teaching at a shop I was running, and I'd say like, God, it drives me nuts that like you say must be able to X, Y, and Z. And she said, and I'll say, So what they do is they'll look it up on YouTube and do it once and then say, yep, I know that. And Kat is the one who added and be able to work it without supervision, which I thought was really brilliant. So in other words, if it says class, like what happened was I was doing a class that was 2 at a time on Magic Loop and 2 at a time on 2 circs. And the class said, must be familiar with Magic Loop. And there were 3 friends who came in and they didn't know Magic Loop at all. And I was beginning to teach 2 at a time on Magic Loop. And they were like, when are you going to teach Magic Loop? And I said, oh, well, the skill prerequisite says must be familiar with Magic Loop. And they were like, we are familiar with it. We've totally heard of that. And I took that on as my bad. Because familiar, I gave them that one. I was like, snap, must be familiar. Yes, I'm familiar with it. I've totally heard of that. Now I'm interested in learning it. So I think I changed it to must be proficient in Magic Loop and be able to work it without supervision. But I thought that was funny because I think they had a point, right? Like, must be familiar. Yes, I've totally heard of that. State in order to get the most from class, you need to do this homework. So that's interesting, Roberta. A friend of mine who's a brilliant teacher, Edie Ekman, Edie will often assign homework that is not needed in the class at all. The homework is really to test people's skill prerequisite, to see if they can do something. Now, it can backfire because someone can say, like, we never even used the homework. But the homework was like practice. So I think she has a point. And I'm going to work that in a little more. I don't know. I thought familiar was my bad. I thought they legitimately had a point. And also you have to be an international teacher, which means, words are funny. So words have different meaning. Chris, yeah, the thing about dirty nails that's I really am like very self-conscious about is that I have these insanely deep nail beds ever since I was a little kid. My mother would say, clean your nails. And I mean, I clean them constantly, but they're this really deep nail bed. And to me, weirdly, my nails always look dirty, even though they're not. Like I clean these things constantly, but that's where polish would come in handy because it would just cover it. But I'm familiar with opera singing. But okay, so that's a lot about teaching. But what I also want to know is how you guys approach. I just shook my table and that. Sorry, I'll stop doing that. Sorry, that made me laugh. Okay, I'm going to stop doing that. How you approach class as a student, because one of my favorite stories was about teaching Build a Better Fabric, Perfect Your Knitting. And the skill prerequisite for that was must know how to knit and purl, cast on and bind off, right? And should be able to knit and purl. And I think when I taught it live, it said must be able to knit and purl and recognize a knit and purl stitch. And I had a knitter come in and she said, I'm a brand new knitter. I only know garter. I've learned cast on and the knit stitch. I don't know purl yet. I don't know bind off yet. But just ignore me. I'm here to pick up on whatever I can pick up on. So first of all, because in that class, for those of you who've taken it, I demo things a million times. She learned how to purl in class because she's watching me do it. And she was sitting next to she had really experienced knitters on either side of her who were really struggling because it's harder to unlearn something than to learn something. So she came up to me after class kind of sheepish and she said, I hope you don't mind this feedback. But I I think back then I had I called the level, you know, the show asked for a level. So I think I told Vogue that it was like advanced beginner or something. And she said, I hope you don't mind this feedback, but I really think the level is inappropriate. I think it should be called all levels because I just learned how to knit. And she said, I feel like I got so much more out of this class than the advanced knitters all around me because I didn't have any bad habits to break. And she held up her knitting, and I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe I couldn't. First of all she had at the beginning was garter, and it was pretty sloppy, and it had some mistakes in it. And then I'm not kidding you, a 3-hour in-person class, she had brilliantly perfect stockinette. So I took her at her word and I changed the level. I changed the description to all levels because I learned so much from her. And I thought her attitude of like, I'm just here to learn. Anyway, I just thought that was great. So that's all. I have a book to write, so I'm going to go. I told my husband, like, no, I'm just going to chat with them for like a half an hour and then I'm going to go. But I really have, once I start chatting with you guys, it's hard to stop. So thank you. So this was really good feedback. This was very interesting. So I guess here's what I want to say. I'm scrolling back to see if I missed anything. I think I caught most things. Here's what I want to say. I believe that my responsibility as a teacher is to write descriptions that are clear and realistic for what we're going to cover. List skill prerequisites. That's a hard word to say. Prerequisites. That's more important than level. So if it's a class in fixing mistakes in brioche, you should know how to do brioche. If it's a brioche tricks class, oh my God, I've got so many brioche tricks up my sleeve, like unvented increases and decreases, working brioche backwards, working brioche for combination knitters, working brioche both colors in a single pass. So I'm trying to figure out how to approach that, whether it's like, I mean, I might call it like Patty's brioche bag of knitting tricks. I don't know. But anyway, so a class like that, obviously the skill prerequisite is must know how to work brioche and work it without supervision. So that's my job as a teacher. But here's what I want to say. Your job as a student is to be open to learning. And that means jump into any class you want. Any. Just be ready to be silently watching and learning. I promise you, you will get so much. Something that I said once to a knitter who took customizing sweater patterns and kind of ignored the skill prerequisite that the skill prerequisite was you should have already knit a sweater, because it's kind of like learning how to write a recipe from scratch before you know how to cook. So a lot of this was shoo, 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 going over her head. She had never even read a sweater pattern. So talking about rates of shaping, you know, when you knit a million sweaters, yeah, you're like, oh, right. Shaping, you always start with the shaping row, and then it'll say repeat that every 4th row X number of times, every 6th row. Oh, okay, right. But this was like she had no frame of reference, right? None whatsoever. And I said, and she said, do you want me to leave? And I was like, that is totally up to you. But here's what I promise you. I promise you that this information that seems like it's going shoo over your head is not. Where it's going, if you're really open to listening and learning, is here. No frame of reference. It sits back here in the back of your head. Now, the first time you knit a sweater, all of a sudden it'll go, oh, that's what that meant. Oh, I remember her talking about rate of shaping and figuring out how, right? So your job as a knitter is to take any class you want and take what you need and discard the rest, and bank what you need. So when I say bank what you need, I mean some of that information might go here. Because maybe you took a cabling without a cable needle class and you've never cabled before. But now the first time you look at a cable pattern, it's going to go there. So be a good student. Don't derail the class. Don't expect special treatment. Listen and learn. And I promise you, you will get so much out of class and you will be happy. That is what I believe. Okay. I gotta go. So we know how we end. Remember, I am having a weekend filled with friends who have all been vaccinated. So I couldn't be more excited to be in a room with people without masks. So I say unto all of you, my beloved knitters, anyone who knows it, type it in with me. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Wear your mask if you're not vaccinated. Boom, there, I've changed it up. Get vaccinated, take off your mask, knit on. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Bye.